The moment my wife Dana shoved me aside at our Christmas dinner table, I knew my marriage was officially over. Not that I hadn't seen it coming for weeks, hell, months if I'm being honest with myself. But watching her physically push me away from my own dining room chair while announcing, "That chair is for my ex, my daughter's true father," in front of our entire family felt like a public execution. My name is Calvin Reed, and I'm a 41-year-old civil engineer who thought he'd found happiness with Dana Pierce 3 years ago. Dana, 38, manages Riverside Private School here in Portland, Maine. She's smart, ambitious, and until recently, I thought she loved me. Her daughter Emily, 14, came as part of the package, a moody teenager who tolerated me at best. But I tried. God knows I tried to be a good stepfather. The man now occupying my chair is Owen Pierce, Dana's ex-husband and Emily's biological father. 43 years old, owns Pierce Auto Sales downtown, and has the kind of easy charm that makes people forget he abandoned his family 5 years ago. He's got that salt and pepper beard that women seem to love, drives a different luxury car every month, and apparently has been working his way back into my wife's life for the past 6 months. "Calvin, don't make a scene," Dana hissed under her breath as I stood there, napkin still in my hand, staring at Owen settling into the chair I'd occupied for 3 years of family dinners. "Emily wants her real father here for Christmas." Emily, my stepdaughter, looked up from her phone long enough to glare at me. "Yeah, Calvin, Dad's here now. You can sit somewhere else." The dining room fell silent. My mother, visiting from Boston, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Dana's best friend Tracy, who'd been helping serve dinner, suddenly found the cranberry sauce fascinating. Even Owen had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, though not uncomfortable enough to give up the chair. "Of course," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "Wouldn't want to intrude on family time." What nobody at that table knew, what Dana had no idea about, was that I'd discovered their affair 3 weeks earlier. Not through some dramatic confrontation or hired detective, but through something much more mundane and infinitely more damning: our shared family calendar. See, when you're married to a school administrator, organization is everything. Dana insisted we sync all our calendars so we could coordinate schedules, appointments, and family events. What she forgot was that her personal calendar was also synced to the system, including those late-night curriculum meetings that somehow always took place within 2 blocks of Owen's apartment. I'm an engineer. I notice patterns. I analyze data. And the data told a very clear story. My wife had been screwing her ex-husband every Tuesday and Thursday evening for the past 6 months, plus the occasional Saturday emergency school board meeting that the actual school board knew nothing about. But I hadn't confronted her. Instead, I'd spent those 3 weeks preparing, gathering evidence, making plans, protecting myself, because Calvin Reed might be the kind of guy who gets pushed aside at his own dinner table, but he's also the kind of guy who builds bridges that don't fall down. And when I build something, whether it's a structure or a plan for revenge, it's engineered to last. "I think I'll head out early," I announced, setting my napkin on the table, suddenly lost my appetite. "Calvin, don't be dramatic," Dana said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's Christmas dinner." "Yes, it is. And clearly I'm not part of this particular family Christmas." I looked around the table, memorizing faces: my mother's concerned expression, Tracy's guilty fidgeting, Emily's defiant stare, Owen's smug satisfaction, and Dana, beautiful, manipulative Dana, trying to look innocent while her lover sat in my chair. "Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Dana, we'll talk later." I grabbed my coat from the hall closet and walked out into the December snow, leaving behind the warm glow of the dining room and the family I'd thought was mine. What they didn't know, what none of them could have imagined, was that by "we'll talk later," I meant something very different than Dana would expect. Because while they were enjoying dessert and probably laughing about how easily they'd gotten rid of me, I was about to set in motion a plan that would destroy not just Dana and Owen's affair, but their entire carefully constructed lives. I sat in my truck for a moment, engine running, watching the warm light spill from our dining room windows. Former dining room windows, I corrected myself. After tonight, nothing about this house would be ours anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from my coworker, Jesse. "How's family dinner? Surviving the holiday chaos?" I typed back. "Actually, I think Christmas just got a lot more interesting." Then I put the truck in drive and headed toward downtown Portland, where the real work was about to begin. Because if Dana thought humiliating me in front of our family was the end of the story, she was about to learn just how wrong she could be. The snow was falling heavier now, coating the streets in a pristine white that would be dirty slush by morning. Kind of like my marriage, I thought grimly. It had looked perfect from the outside, but underneath, it was just waiting to turn into something ugly. Time to start clearing the roads. The first stop was our bank. Citizens Bank stays open until 8 on Christmas Eve for last-minute holiday emergencies, and I definitely qualified. Cheryl, our usual teller, looked surprised to see me. "Calvin, working late on Christmas Eve?" "Something like that," I said, sliding my driver's license across the counter. "I need to make some changes to our joint accounts." What Dana didn't know was that I'd been the primary account holder since we'd merged our finances 2 years ago. My name was first on everything. My credit score had qualified us for the mortgage, and Maine law was very clear about joint account access. Either party could make changes without the other's consent. "I need to remove Dana Pierce as a secondary holder on all accounts," I told Cheryl, keeping my voice casual. "We're restructuring our finances for tax purposes." It took 20 minutes to complete the paperwork. By the time I walked out of that bank, Dana had gone from having access to $43,000 in savings and checking accounts to having access to exactly nothing. The mortgage payment, car payments, insurance premiums, all of it was now solely under my control, but I wasn't done. My next stop was the Riverside Private School Administrative Building. As head of the Parent-Teacher Association fundraising committee, I had keys to the main office. What I was doing wasn't technically breaking and entering, I was authorized to be there. I just wasn't authorized to be there at 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, photographing documents from Dana's personnel file. The school's conflict of interest policy was very clear. Employees were prohibited from engaging in personal relationships that could compromise their professional judgment. Having a physical relationship with the ex-husband of a current student's family, especially when that ex-husband was trying to regain custody rights, was exactly the kind of situation the policy was designed to prevent. I photographed Dana's signed acknowledgement of the policy, along with several emails in her work account that mentioned meeting with Emily's father to discuss her academic progress. Academic progress that, according to Emily's actual teachers, had never been a concern. Then I drafted 3 letters. The first was my resignation as PTA fundraising chair, effective immediately, professional, courteous, and giving no reason for my departure. The second was to Dr. Patricia Lang, the school board chair, informing her of a potential conflict of interest involving Dana Pierce and Owen Pierce that required immediate investigation. The third was to Owen's business partner at Pierce Auto Sales. Owen might own 51% of the dealership, but Marcus Webb owned 49% and handled most of the day-to-day operations. Marcus was also a deacon at First Baptist Church and took a very dim view of adultery. The letter simply informed him that Owen had been conducting an extramarital affair with a school administrator, potentially compromising the dealership's reputation in the community. I printed all 3 letters on school letterhead, sealed them in envelopes, and left them in the outgoing mail. They'd be delivered the day after Christmas. By the time I finished at the school, it was nearly 10:30. I drove to my new apartment. Yes, new apartment. I'd signed the lease 2 weeks ago, the day after I'd confirmed Dana's affair. It was a furnished 1-bedroom place above Murphy's Pub on Exchange Street, month-to-month rental, perfect for a man starting over. I'd been slowly moving my important belongings there for days. My tools, my engineering books, my computer, my grandfather's watch, the few family photos that actually mattered to me. Tonight, I'd collect the rest. The house was dark when I pulled into our driveway. Dana's car was there, but Owen's BMW was gone. Probably didn't want to push his luck by staying overnight. Yet. I let myself in quietly and went straight to our bedroom. Dana was asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I could see the edge of a text conversation, Owen's name at the top. I didn't need to read it. I already knew what it said. It took me 40 minutes to pack everything I needed. Clothes, toiletries, important documents, my laptop, the rest of my tools from the garage. I left behind anything we'd bought together, anything that could be considered ours. I only took what was unquestionably mine. The last thing I did was leave a note on the kitchen counter, right next to the coffee maker Dana used every morning. Dana, by the time you read this, you'll have discovered that our joint bank accounts have been closed and the funds transferred to my personal account. You'll also find that I've resigned from the PTA and informed the school board of your relationship with Owen. I've moved out. My lawyer will be in touch about divorce proceedings. Merry Christmas. The chair may be his, but everything else is mine. Calvin. I propped the note against her favorite coffee mug, the one that said, "World's Best Mom," and walked out of the house for the last time. My phone started ringing as I drove back to my apartment. Dana's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately, and again. By the time I parked behind Murphy's Pub, I had 7 missed calls. I climbed the narrow stairs to my apartment, poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, and finally listened to the messages. Calvin, what the hell is this note? Call me back right now. Calvin, You can't just take all our money. That's theft. Calvin, I'm serious. Call me back or I'm calling the police. The bank says you closed our accounts? How could you do this? We need to talk. Calvin, please, I know you're upset about tonight, but this is insane. Call me back. I'm going to call your mother. She'll talk sense into you. Calvin, I'm begging you, please call me back. We can work this out. I deleted all the messages without responding and turned off my phone. Tomorrow was Christmas Day. The banks would be closed, the school board members would be with their families, and Dana would have approximately 18 hours to sit in that house, the house whose mortgage was in my name, and think about what she'd done. But the real fireworks would start the day after Christmas, when my letters were delivered and the rest of my plan kicked into gear. I raised my bourbon glass in a toast to the empty apartment. Merry Christmas to me. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing Portland in pristine white. By morning, Dana would wake up to discover that her perfect little world had been completely buried, and I was just getting started. Christmas morning arrived gray and bitter cold, with 6 inches of fresh snow covering the city. I woke up in my new apartment at 7:30, made coffee with the machine I'd liberated from the house, and turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, all from Dana. I scrolled through a few of the texts, watching her emotional progression from anger to panic to desperation. You bastard! Turn your phone on! Calvin, I can't access any of our accounts. Fix this now. Please, we need to talk. I know I hurt you, but this is crazy. The mortgage payment is due next week. You can't leave me with no money. I'm sorry about last night. I was wrong. Please come home. Calvin, I'm scared. Please don't do this to us. The last message had arrived at 3:47 a.m. I love you. Please give me a chance to explain. Too little. Too late. I spent Christmas Day in blissful solitude, reading engineering journals and planning my next moves. Around noon, my mother called. Calvin, Dana phoned me this morning. She's very upset. She says you've left her with no money and moved out without warning. That's not entirely accurate, Mom. I left her with plenty of warning. 3 years of marriage should have been warning enough not to screw her ex-husband. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, Calvin, are you certain? Completely certain. I have evidence. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes to protect myself and my future, Dana made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. My mother sighed. Well, I never did like how she treated you at dinner last night. That was inexcusable. Thanks, Mom. I'll call you in a few days. The day after Christmas, the real fun began. I was drinking coffee at Murphy's downstairs at 8 a.m. when my phone rang. Jesse, my coworker and probably my closest friend, sounded confused. Calvin, I just got a weird call from Tracy. You know, Dana's friend? She wanted to know if I'd heard from you. Said Dana's been trying to reach you for 2 days and she's worried something happened. Nothing happened to me, I said. Can't say the same for Dana. What's going on, man? Dana's been having an affair with her ex-husband. I found out 3 weeks ago. Christmas Eve, she humiliated me in front of our family, so I decided to return the favor. Jesus, what did you do? Closed our joint accounts, moved out, and informed her employer that she's violating their conflict of interest policy by screwing around with her daughter's father. Jesse whistled low. That's thorough. I'm an engineer, Jesse. When I solve a problem, I solve it completely. At 9:15, Dr. Patricia Lang called me directly. The school board chair sounded deeply concerned. Calvin, I received your letter about Dana. These are very serious allegations. They're not allegations, Dr. Lang. They're facts. I can provide documentation if needed. I'm afraid we'll need to conduct a formal investigation. This kind of conflict of interest could compromise the school's reputation and Dana's ability to perform her duties objectively. I understand completely. I'm available to provide any information you need. We'll need to suspend Dana pending the investigation. This is very unfortunate timing, with the new semester starting in 2 weeks. Yes, it is unfortunate, but I thought the board should know before the situation became public knowledge. After I hung up, I felt a grim satisfaction. Dana would arrive at work tomorrow to find herself suspended without pay, under investigation for professional misconduct. Her perfect little career, the thing she was most proud of, was now in jeopardy. But I wasn't finished. At 11 a.m., I drove to Pierce Auto Sales. The dealership was busy with post-Christmas shoppers looking for deals. I found Marcus Webb in his office, reviewing sales figures. Marcus was everything Owen wasn't. Steady, reliable, deeply religious, and completely devoted to his wife of 22 years. He looked up when I knocked on his door frame. Calvin, good to see you. How was your Christmas? Educational, I said, closing the door behind me. Marcus, I need to talk to you about Owen. His expression grew serious. What about Owen? He's been having an affair with my wife for the past 6 months. I have evidence. I thought you should know before it becomes public and potentially affects the dealership's reputation. Marcus went very still. Are you certain about this? I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of the calendar overlaps, the text message previews I'd photographed, and the email exchanges about meetings that never appeared on any official school schedule. My wife works at Riverside Private School. She's been suspended pending an investigation into their relationship. Owen's been using his access as Emily's father to conduct an inappropriate relationship with a school administrator. Marcus studied the evidence, his jaw tightening. This is very disappointing. Owen knows how I feel about adultery. We've had conversations about maintaining the dealership's reputation in the community. I'm not asking you to do anything, Marcus. I just thought you should know what you're dealing with. I appreciate you coming to me directly. This explains some things. Owen's been distracted lately, taking long lunches, leaving early. I thought it was just holiday stress. I left the dealership knowing that Owen's professional life was about to become very complicated. Marcus might not fire his business partner immediately, but Owen's days of easy money and flexible schedules were over. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Calvin, this is Emily. My stepdaughter's voice was small, uncertain, very different from her defiant tone at Christmas dinner. Hello, Emily. Mom's been crying for 2 days. She won't tell me what's happening, but Tracy said you moved out and took all the money. I moved out, yes, and I took my money. There's a difference. Are you getting divorced? I paused, considering how much to tell a 14-year-old girl who was about to discover that her mother wasn't the person she thought she was. Emily, your mother and I have some serious problems that can't be fixed. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this. Is it because of Dad? Because he was here for Christmas? It's because of choices your mother made. I hope you understand someday that I tried to be a good stepfather to you. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, you were okay, I guess? Better than some of Mom's other boyfriends. It wasn't much, but coming from Emily, it was practically a declaration of love. Take care of yourself, Emily, and don't let the adults' problems become your problems. After I hung up, I almost felt bad about what I was doing. Almost. Then I remembered the look on Owen's face as he settled into my chair, the satisfaction in Dana's voice as she announced that he was Emily's true father, and the way my own family had watched me be humiliated without saying a word. My phone buzzed with another text from Dana. Calvin, please. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. I'll end things with Owen. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't destroy our life together. I typed back, You already destroyed it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Her response came immediately. I'm coming to your apartment. We need to talk face to face. No, we don't. Any further communication goes through lawyers. Calvin, I'm begging you. Please. I turned off my phone and went for a walk through the old port. The Christmas decorations were still up, twinkling in the late afternoon light. Couples walked hand in hand, families pushed strollers, everyone looked happy and content. I'd thought I was part of that world once. Now I knew better. But as I walked through the snow-covered streets of Portland, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Dana and Owen had humiliated me, betrayed me, and tried to push me aside, but they'd underestimated the quiet man in the corner, the engineer who built things to last, and I was just getting started. The next morning brought the phone call I'd been expecting. Owen Pierce, no longer sounding quite so confident. Calvin, we need to talk. No, we really don't. Look, I know you're upset about Christmas dinner, but you're taking this too far. Dana's suspended from her job. Marcus is breathing down my neck, asking questions about my personal conduct. And you've frozen her out of your bank accounts. This is affecting Emily. You should have thought about Emily before you started screwing her mother behind my back. That's between Dana and me. You don't have the right to destroy our lives over it. I laughed, actually laughed. Owen, you destroyed your own lives. I'm just making sure everyone knows what you did. I'm warning you, Calvin. Back off, or this gets ugly. It's already ugly. You made it ugly 6 months ago when you decided to crawl back into my wife's bed. The line went quiet for a moment, then Owen's voice came back, harder. You have no idea what you're messing with. Actually, I have a very clear idea. I'm messing with a cheating ex-husband and an unfaithful wife who thought they could humiliate me and face no consequences. How's that working out for you? He hung up. An hour later, Dana showed up at Murphy's pub. I was upstairs in my apartment when I heard shouting in the bar below. I looked out my window and saw her arguing with Murphy himself, demanding to know which apartment was mine. I went downstairs. Dana looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes were red from crying, and she was wearing the same clothes she'd had on Christmas Eve. She saw me and rushed over. "Calvin, thank God. We need to talk. This has gone too far." "You're right. It went too far when you shoved me aside for your ex-husband at our dinner table. I was wrong about that. I admit it, but you can't destroy my career over one mistake." "One mistake?" "Dana, you've been screwing Owen for 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. A series of choices." She grabbed my arm. "Please. I know I hurt you, but I love you. I want to save our marriage." I gently removed her hand. "You love me? Is that why you've been meeting Owen twice a week for the past 6 months? Is that why you gave him my chair and announced he was Emily's true father? That's a funny way of showing love." I was confused. Owen was pressuring me, saying Emily needed her real father, and I... Stop. Just stop. I looked around the bar, where several customers were pretending not to listen to our conversation. "Dana, you made your choice. You chose Owen. You chose to betray our marriage. You chose to humiliate me in front of our family. Now you get to live with those choices." "What about Emily? She needs stability. She needs a mother who doesn't lie and cheat. Maybe this will teach her what happens when you treat people badly." Dana's face crumpled. "Calvin, please, I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll cut off all contact with Owen. You'll what? Promise to be faithful this time? Promise not to humiliate me again? Your promises don't mean anything anymore." She started crying then, right there in the middle of Murphy's pub. Big, ugly sobs that made everyone uncomfortable. I felt a moment of sympathy, and then I remembered Christmas dinner. Go home, Dana. Talk to a lawyer, or figure out how to explain to Emily why her mother is about to lose her job and her house. I turned to walk away, but she grabbed my arm again. "The house? Calvin, you can't take the house. Emily and I live there. The mortgage is in my name. The down payment came from my savings. Legally, it's my house. But where will we go? I suggest you ask Owen. He seems to have all the answers." I went back upstairs, leaving Dana crying in the bar. Through my window, I watched her sit in her car for 20 minutes before finally driving away. That afternoon, I got a call from Tracy, Dana's best friend. "Calvin, I know you're hurt, but you're destroying Dana's life." "No, Tracy. Dana destroyed her own life. I'm just making sure she can't take mine down with her." "She made a mistake. She made a choice, multiple choices, every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months." Tracy was quiet for a moment. "You knew? For how long?" 3 weeks, long enough to prepare for this. "And you didn't say anything? You just planned this whole thing?" "I'm an engineer, Tracy. When I see a structural problem, I don't ignore it and hope it goes away. I fix it. This isn't fixing anything. This is revenge." "You're right. It is revenge, and Dana earned every bit of it." The next day, I received an unexpected visitor. Emily showed up at Murphy's pub after school, looking lost and angry. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat at a corner table in the bar. Emily ordered a Coke. I had coffee. "Mom won't stop crying," she said. "She lost her job. We might lose the house, and Dad's acting weird. What did you do?" I told the truth about what your mother and Owen were doing behind my back. "You mean the affair?" I looked at her sharply. "You knew?" Emily shrugged. "I'm not stupid. Dad's been coming around a lot. Mom's been sneaking around, and you guys haven't been talking to each other for weeks. I figured something was going on." "And you didn't think to mention it?" "It wasn't my business. Adults are always screwing up their relationships." Smart kid. Smarter than I'd given her credit for. "Emily, I know this is hard for you, but your mother made choices that hurt me, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen." "So you're going to ruin her life?" "I'm going to protect myself." "There's a difference." Emily studied me for a long moment. "You're really not coming back, are you?" "No, I'm not." "Good," she said, surprising me. "Mom's been miserable for months, pretending to be happy. Maybe now she can figure out what she actually wants instead of trying to make everyone else happy." Out of the mouths of babes. "What about you? Are you okay?" Emily shrugged again. "I'll be fine. I always am. Mom and Dad will figure something out, or they won't. Either way, I'll survive." She finished her Coke and stood up. "For what it's worth, Calvin, you were a decent stepdad. Better than most." After she left, I sat in that bar for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences. Dana had chosen Owen over me, chosen deception over honesty, chosen humiliation over respect. Now she was living with the results. But I wasn't finished yet. Not even close. That evening, I made a few more phone calls. To the school board members I'd worked with on fundraising committees, to parents whose children attended Riverside Private School, to members of the community who trusted Dana with their children's education. I didn't spread gossip or make accusations, and I simply let it be known that Dana Pierce was under investigation for professional misconduct, that her personal relationship with a parent had compromised her ability to do her job objectively, and that the school board was taking the matter very seriously. In a small city like Portland, news travels fast. By the end of the week, everyone would know what Dana had done. Her reputation, the thing she'd worked years to build, would be in ruins. And Owen? Owen was about to discover that Marcus Webb took business ethics very seriously indeed. My phone buzzed with a text from Jesse. "Heard Dana got suspended. You okay?" I typed back, "Better than okay, I'm free." And for the first time in months, that was absolutely true. New Year's Eve arrived with a bitter wind and the promise of change. I spent the evening at Murphy's Pub, nursing a beer and watching the ball drop on the television above the bar. At midnight, when everyone else was kissing their partners and making resolutions, I raised my glass in a silent toast to new beginnings. The first week of January brought a flurry of activity. The school board completed their investigation and terminated Dana's employment for conduct incompatible with the professional standards expected of Riverside private school administrators. The local newspaper ran a small item about it, carefully worded to avoid lawsuits, but clear enough that anyone who knew the players could read between the lines. Owen's situation at the dealership deteriorated rapidly. Marcus Webb, true to his religious convictions, made Owen's life miserable. No more flexible schedules, no more long lunches, no more using the dealership's resources for personal business. Owen was required to account for every hour, every mile on the demo cars, every expense report. But the real blow came when Marcus discovered that Owen had been using the dealership's computer system to send personal emails to Dana during work hours. Dozens of them, some explicit enough to constitute harassment if they'd been sent to an employee. Marcus called it misuse of company resources and violation of workplace conduct standards. Owen couldn't be fired. He owned 51% of the business. But Marcus could make him miserable, and he did. Meanwhile, Dana was drowning. Without her income and with no access to our former joint accounts, she couldn't make the mortgage payment. She'd moved in with her mother temporarily, but that arrangement was already showing strain. Emily was acting out at school, angry about the upheaval in her life. I might have felt sorry for them if I hadn't received a visit from Owen's lawyer. Attorney Richard Morse was everything you'd expect from a small city lawyer trying to intimidate someone. Expensive suit, aggressive handshake, briefcase full of empty threats. "Mr. Reed, my client believes you've engaged in a campaign of harassment designed to damage his reputation and business relationships." I poured myself coffee and didn't offer him any. "Your client is welcome to believe whatever he wants. I've simply told the truth about his conduct." "Spreading malicious gossip could constitute defamation." "Good thing I haven't spread any gossip, malicious or otherwise. I've documented facts to relevant parties who had a legitimate need to know." Morse opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "We have evidence that you've contacted multiple members of the community with false allegations about my client's relationship with your wife." "I'd love to see that evidence, since it doesn't exist. Every communication I've had has been factual and limited to parties with a direct interest in the matter. The school board, your wife's employer, members of the PTE. All parties who had a legitimate need to know that Dana Pierce was violating professional conduct standards. Would you prefer I had allowed the situation to continue unchecked?" Morse's confidence wavered slightly. "My client is prepared to file a lawsuit for defamation and intentional interference with business relationships." I laughed. "Please do. I'd love to see Owen explain his affair with my wife under oath. I'd love to see him justify 6 months of lying and deception to a jury. Discovery should be particularly interesting. I have extensive documentation of their relationship." "You're playing a dangerous game, Mr. Reed." "No, Mr. Morse. Your client played a dangerous game when he decided to destroy my marriage. I'm just cleaning up the mess." After Morse left, I felt energized. Owen was desperate enough to hire a lawyer, which meant my campaign was working, but I wasn't finished yet. That afternoon, I drove to Riverside Private School for a meeting with Dr. Lang. The school board chair looked tired and stressed. "Calvin, I wanted to thank you for bringing this situation to our attention. It was difficult, but necessary." "I'm sorry it had to happen this way, Dr. Lang. But Dana's relationship with Owen compromised her ability to make objective decisions about Emily's education and welfare." "Yes, we reached the same conclusion. However, I'm concerned about the disruption this has caused. Parents are asking questions, staff morale is suffering, and we need to rebuild confidence in the school's leadership. What can I do to help? Dr. Lang looked surprised. You'd be willing to help, though, after everything that's happened? My issue was with Dana's conduct, not with the school. Riverside Private School is an excellent institution that deserves community support. Would you consider returning as PTA fundraising chair? Your reputation in the community is... Well, frankly, people respect how you've handled this situation. I pretended to consider it. I'd be honored to help, but only if the board is confident that there won't be any further conflicts of interest involving former staff members. Dana's termination was final. She won't be returning to Riverside in any capacity. Then yes, I'd be happy to resume my duties. Walking out of that meeting, I felt a deep satisfaction. Not only had I destroyed Dana's career, I'd positioned myself as the wronged party, who was graciously willing to continue supporting the community despite his personal trauma. My reputation was stronger than ever, while Dana's was in ruins. But the best was yet to come. That evening, I received a call from Emily. Calvin, I need to ask you something. What's that? Mom's been getting weird phone calls. People hang up when she answers, or they ask if she's the teacher who got fired for sleeping with a parent. It's really upsetting her. I'm sorry to hear that, Emily, but I can't control what other people say or do. Are you behind it? No, but when someone's conduct becomes public knowledge, people talk. That's not my fault. Emily was quiet for a moment. She's talking about leaving Portland, starting over somewhere else. That might be best for everyone. Would you consider helping her? With money for moving expenses or something? She's really struggling. I felt a moment of genuine sympathy for Emily, caught between her mother's poor choices and the consequences I was determined to enforce. Emily, your mother made decisions that hurt me deeply. I can't enable her to avoid the consequences of those decisions? So you're just going to let her lose everything? I'm going to let her experience the natural results of her actions. Maybe it will teach her to make better choices in the future. After I hung up, I wondered if I was being too harsh. Then I remembered Christmas dinner, the look on Owen's face as he took my chair, Dana's announcement that he was Emily's true father, and the months of deception that had led to that moment. No, I wasn't being too harsh. I was being exactly as harsh as the situation demanded. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessie. Heard you're back as PTA chair. That's a power move. I typed back. Sometimes the best revenge is living well and showing everyone what integrity looks like. Outside my apartment window, Portland was settling into the quiet rhythm of a January evening. Snow was falling again, covering the city in fresh white. By morning, the streets would be clean and bright, ready for whatever came next. Just like me. February brought unexpected developments. Dana, desperate and running out of options, made a decision that surprised everyone. She filed for divorce and requested alimony. Her new lawyer, Sandra Chen, was sharper than Owen's attorney. She understood that Dana's best strategy was to position herself as the victim of a vindictive husband who destroyed her career and left her destitute. Mr. Reed, Chen said during our first mediation session, my client acknowledges that mistakes were made in the marriage. However, your response has been disproportionate and deliberately destructive. My attorney, Frank Morrison, was a bulldog who specialized in protecting men's assets during divorce proceedings. Ms. Chen, your client conducted a 6-month affair with her ex-husband, violated her professional ethics, and publicly humiliated my client at a family gathering. Mr. Reed's response has been entirely appropriate. Appropriate? He destroyed her career, froze her out of their joint assets without warning, and conducted a campaign to damage her reputation in the community. Frank smiled. He protected his assets from a spouse who was clearly preparing to leave him. He reported professional misconduct to the appropriate authorities, and he told the truth about her conduct to relevant parties. All perfectly legal. The mediation lasted 4 hours and accomplished nothing. Dana wanted half of everything plus alimony. I was willing to give her exactly what Maine law required, nothing. Because here's what Dana's lawyer didn't understand. In Maine, adultery is grounds for divorce, and it affects property division. Dana's affair with Owen wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was legal ammunition. But the real surprise came in March, when Emily made a decision that shocked everyone. I want to live with Dad, she announced to Dana during one of their increasingly frequent arguments. Owen, who'd been pushing for more custody rights throughout the divorce proceedings, was thrilled. Dana was devastated. Emily, you can't be serious, Dana pleaded. Your father abandoned us 5 years ago. And you abandoned Calvin after 3 years of marriage, Emily shot back. At least Dad's honest about what he wants. The custody hearing was brutal. Emily, now 15 and old enough for her opinion to carry weight with the judge, testified that she wanted to live with Owen full-time. She cited the instability in Dana's life, the loss of their home, and her mother's inability to make good decisions about relationships. Dana's lawyer tried to argue that Owen's affair with Dana proved he was an unfit parent, but the judge wasn't buying it. Ms. Chen, your client was an equal participant in the extramarital relationship. I can't penalize Mr. Pierce for conduct that your client initiated and encouraged. Owen was awarded primary custody. Dana got visitation rights and a child support obligation she couldn't afford. The final divorce decree was signed in April. Dana received a small settlement, enough to rent a modest apartment and start over, but nowhere near what she'd hoped for. No alimony, minimal assets, and the knowledge that her own daughter had chosen her father over her. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. The revenge I'd planned so carefully had worked perfectly. Dana had lost her job, her home, her daughter, and her reputation. Owen had lost his business partnership. Marcus Webb had finally bought him out at a fraction of what his shares were worth, and his relationship with Dana had crumbled under the pressure of their mutual destruction. But as I sat in my apartment above Murphy's Pub on a rainy April evening, I realized that revenge was a hollow victory. I'd destroyed my enemies, but I'd also destroyed any chance of rebuilding my life into something positive. That's when I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I called Dana. Calvin, why are you calling me? Because I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. Emily's struggling. She's angry at you, disappointed in Owen, and caught in the middle of a mess that adults created. She needs stability. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that we act like adults and put Emily's welfare first. You need a job and a stable living situation. Emily needs a mother who isn't drowning in bitterness and regret. Dana was quiet for a long moment. What kind of offer? I know people at the Portland School District. Not administrative positions, but teaching jobs. You're qualified and they need experienced educators. It won't pay as much as Riverside, but it's honest work. Why would you help me? Because Emily deserves better than what we've given her, and because I'm tired of being angry. It wasn't forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that, and might never be. But it was something better than the endless cycle of revenge and recrimination we'd been trapped in. Dana took the teaching job. She found a small apartment near Emily's school. She and Owen maintained a civil relationship focused solely on their daughter's needs. And I stayed in Portland, continued my work as an engineer, and slowly began to rebuild my life. Not the life I'd planned with Dana, but a different life. A life where I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's refusing to let them destroy you. 6 months later, I ran into Emily at the grocery store. Calvin, how are you? I'm good, Emily. How are you doing? Better. Mom's doing better, too. She likes teaching, and she's seeing a therapist. Dad's still Dad, but at least he's trying. I'm glad to hear that. Emily studied my face. You know, I never thanked you. For what? For helping Mom get that job. She told me you made some calls, put in a good word for her. Your mother's a good teacher. She deserved a chance to start over. Most people wouldn't have helped someone who hurt them like that. I thought about it for a moment. Most people don't get the chance to choose between revenge and redemption. I chose revenge first, and it worked. But it didn't make me happy. Helping your mother start over. That made me happy. Emily smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. You're a good guy, Calvin. I'm sorry it took me so long to figure that out. As I watched her walk away, I realized that the real victory wasn't destroying Dana and Owen. The real victory was discovering that I could choose to be better than my worst impulses, that I could find peace without requiring their destruction. The chair at my old dining room table had started this whole mess. Dana had given it to Owen, declared him Emily's true father, and humiliated me in front of our family. But in the end, the chair didn't matter. What mattered was learning that my worth wasn't determined by where I sat or who acknowledged my place at the table. I'd built a new life, one where I chose who got to sit at my table. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. Walking out of that grocery store into the bright Maine sunshine, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Genuine happiness. Not the bitter satisfaction of revenge, but the quiet contentment of a man who'd survived betrayal and chosen to build something better from the wreckage. The chair was never really mine to begin with, but the life I'd built afterward, that belonged to me completely.